parts of this recipe right now. So the first one, we're going to deal with the garlic because we're at a garlic festival. This is something I learned a long time ago, and I really haven't seen too many people do this, but it's kind of cool. You can get a close-up of this garlic. So this garlic is actually roasted in sugar. So it's a really cool technique that I learned a bunch of years ago. And what you do is you take garlic, peeled, in tin foil, and then we cover it with sugar. What was that? It's not enough sugar? Oh, okay. And then a little bit of water, just a little bit. And then we just take it, wrap it up. 300-degree oven for about 45 minutes, okay? That's it. Make sure it doesn't go on a hot oven because it'll burn, and then when it's done, you see the sugar actually turns to liquid, and it actually cooks the garlic. So this garlic is cooked all the way through. It's nice and sweet, and it has the same texture like a confit of garlic, only it has a lot of sweetness from the sugar. And then we're going to use both the garlic and the sugar in the recipe. So, the recipe, I'm an East Coast guy, so I brought some lobsters with me. And so this is a dish that a lot of people ask me, like, how do you come up with dishes? This is a dish that actually started with eggplant, believe it or not. And the reason it started with eggplant is because I'm a gardener, and this time of year, tons of eggplant coming out of the garden. So I've got to figure out a way to cook it, and I've got to figure out a way to make eggplant that my family's going to actually eat it. And so, eggplant's one of those things, either you love it or you don't. But I can get you to love it. So, what I did is I started taking eggplant and using a griddle, not a wok, but a griddle, and you put the eggplant in a good amount of oil, because eggplant absorbs a lot of oil, and it goes on there. And then we add to that some scallions and some chilies. Usually I have chilies coming out of the garden at the same time. Today we have some jalapenos and some Fresnos. Chilies, scallions, usually regular garlic, and then let that cook, and then add parsley, cilantro, basil, and Thai basil. And then it goes in and it cooks together with all the eggplant. But then I take it off the stove, mix it in a bowl of all those same herbs, fresh over the top again, and then lime juice, soy sauce, and fish sauce, a little bit of fish sauce. So I started making that dish, and family loved it. We had a friend of ours who was from Tibet, who just absolutely fell in love with this dish, and it became a dish that every summer the family looked forward to. And so when I started working on a cookbook that I've owed my publisher for 6 years now, that one day I'll finish it, I started messing around with trying different things, and I had a lobster, and I ended up doing the same dish with lobster, and it was really sensational. So I'm going to do that dish today. So we start with our lobster now. What we do is this lobster is still a little on the raw side. So we take the whole lobster, and just cook it in boiling water for about 2 minutes. Take it out, let it cool down, and then we kind of divvy it up. So I'll show you a really, really cool way to clean the lobster down. So you take the lobster, right? You take these flippers off. I already got the baby upset. If you take the lobster now, take it in your hands and just smash it. And then just reverse it, just pull it off like that. The meat comes right out. And then for the claws, I usually pull this piece off and then take the back of a knife and just kind of right up at the top here. And as it goes through, twist it, and it usually just pops right off. And then we break it, and the claws come. Easy for me to say. The claw meat just pops right out. It comes right out. So, now we have our lobster, okay? And we have all our ingredients. So we're going to start, so when I started doing this dish, I don't cook with a wok that much, but this dish just, for some reason, I looked at it and said, this dish actually I think is better in a wok. And so, we start with some oil. The wok is pretty hot. Don't be afraid to use oil. This is smoking a little bit, not much. We take our lobsters, me just cut this one up too. We got some nice chunky lobster meat. And lobster meat goes right in. We don't want to overcrowd it. When we're using our wok, we want to push the meat up to the sides. Okay? That guy in there. You notice I'm adding it a little at a time now. I don't want to add it all at once. If you add everything at once, the temperature actually drops and then it starts to steam. It doesn't saute. And that's what you're looking for. You want to keep that sizzle going the whole time. When you hear that sizzle, it's really important when you cook. You think you cook with more than just one sense. You have to look and see what you're doing, but actually listen to the sizzle. Actually smelling the aromas, and so you're cooking with all your senses. The lobster's cooking nicely. We start adding our ingredients. We have our scallions. Now I'm also looking at this and I'm seeing it's absorbing a good amount of oil, so I'm going to add a little more. We'll let it cook. Okay. We have our chilies, so here are some jalapenos. And then we cut up some of these nicely. Then we're going to add our sweet garlic. Now, you got to be careful with this because the sugar in here is going to make this burn very quickly. So this dish is kind of Thai influenced. And typically when you're cooking Thai food, you use palm sugar, but we're going to use the garlic sugar in place of it. It'll give it pretty much the same effect. So the sweet garlic goes in. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. A little bit of salt. And then we have the soy, we have the fish sauce. A little bit. What's that? Oh, it's okay. This is fine. I don't mind doing this. There we go. Not a ton of fish sauce. I like it. Get a little bit of funk, but not too much. And then at the very end, we can take our herbs. And it's a good amount of herbs. All of our green herbs. Toss that around. Once the herbs go in and they cook, the dish is pretty much done. You see, it's a ton of herbs. So go in the bowl. Then we take the herbs, but large pieces, and we're just going to tear them. You don't need to chop them at this point, just tear them up. So you're almost making like an herb salad that goes with this. You smell that Thai basil, just has a good sort of anise, fennel flavor to it, and basil. I have some cilantro. Now the cool thing about this cilantro, anybody grow cilantro at home? The really cool thing is when it first starts to go to seed, you have the green seeds. Really, really great. So I have green seeds here, which are kind of neat, and some of the flowers as well. And then a little bit of parsley. And then this gets tossed as well. And so you end up with this kind of very herbaceous, almost like a salad, an herb salad of lobster. And you know, it's funny with this dish, the lobster almost takes a back seat to the herbs. So you have spice, you have some sugar, sweetness from the sugar, you have acid from the lime that I'm going to squeeze at the very, very end. There's some good lime juice on there. You get some funky notes from the fish sauce, and then you have a well-balanced, yes, garlic, lots of garlic. And if you want more garlic because you're at the garlic festival, you can take all of your garlic, right? Because we are at a garlic festival, right? And we add a lot more of this delicious Gilroy garlic over the top. And there we go. Real quick, real easy. I mean, that took maybe about 5 or 6 minutes, huh? So, it's got this. Now, here's the best part. I love doing Q&A. I can sit up here for the next 2 hours and do Q&A. I don't have 2 hours, so whoever has a microphone, get it out there. You can just throw out questions. I can probably hear you, but I'd love to do it. There's only 2 questions I don't answer. I can't tell you who wins this season of Top Chef. I can't tell you that. And I don't comment on Padma's dating habits. Out of bounds. Completely out of bounds. Anything else I'll answer. So, shoot. I don't know. You have to ask. It's above my pay grade. I'm not sure who's eating, but I think it's some people back here maybe. So I don't know if I can do that. But no. The answer is going to use Truvy instead of sugar. I don't think it'll work the same way. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Salt to boiling water. And you want to season that water. You want to bring it up to the same level as seawater. So a lot of salt. Okay, question.
Tom, can I try a bite?
I don't know. You have to ask them. It's no. The answer is no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not mine. I can't give it out. I don't know. There's some issues with liability. I don't know.
Hey, so just quickly, Japanese eggplant or etc. if we want to reboot this vegetarian.
Oh yes. Okay.
And how long on the cooking?
Either one. Doesn't matter. Now the thing with the eggplant, cook it slower. I don't use the wok. I actually use a griddle and a lot more oil because it absorbs a lot of oil. No. Big question. I actually just got on social media. I just got into this. I posted an eggplant parmesan. And everybody say, do you salt it? Absolutely not. Now there's this, this idea that if you salt it, it brings out the water. But that's eggplant. It has water in it. It's fine. No, I don't salt it. No. Especially I think the varieties like the Japanese eggplant, the skin's a lot thinner, and it doesn't need to be salted at all. No. Yeah. But the cool thing is I would use a couple different times instead of just one. Yeah, mix them up. Sure. I got one right here. I'm right there. Okay.
Hey Chef, big fan.
Thank you.
What's best dish you've ever had with okra in it?
The best dish I ever had with okra in it? What?
Because it's not very good.
Okra. I can't stand okra, and you know that.
I know.
But, so here's a good story. So, when I first planted my first garden, it was about 7 years ago, and I had a guy help me out, and he had no idea I hated okra. So he planted okra, and I didn't know he planted okra until, a month or so. I see this plant, I'm like, I can't identify the plant, I don't know what it is, and then I saw these little okras coming out of it, and I was like, I can't believe I have to actually cook okra now. And so what I did is I sliced it really, really thin, and then just kind of sauteed it nicely. What I don't like about okra is the slime. I can't deal with the slime. The same reason I don't like grated mountain yam. Any Japanese food fans out there know what grated mountain yam is? Don't like it. Anyway, but if you cut it thin enough and saute it quickly, it's okay. But not a fan of okra. Oh, how long will the garlic keep? If you put it in a jar, seal it, and don't put your fingers in it, it'll probably keep for about a month or so. But avoid putting your fingers in it. Because, again, usually your fingers have bacteria on it, and if it gets in there, that's when it'll get a little funky. The other thing you can do is you can actually leave it out, too, and let it ferment. Yeah.
Is this recipe that you just made in the Garlic Festival cookbook?
No! I don't know, is it? I don't think it is. I'll post it on a website, how's that?
Tom!
The book's not out yet. You have to read the book. I can't say that because the book's not out. Otherwise I would, but it's not in the book. But I do actually, of that book, I have about 16 recipes out of the 100 or so that I need, so I will post that one.
What's your favorite thing you grow in your garden?
What is my favorite thing? I love it all. I start with peas and fava beans early spring. Love that, and then go right through to squashes. I grow garlic as well. Gotta grow garlic. But I gotta say, when tomatoes are in season, there's really nothing better. So a great tomato, yeah.
Favorite cocktail recipe?
Favorite cocktail recipe? It all depends on the time of year. Right now I'm drinking gin and tonics and Negronis. I don't know if I have a recipe for that, but what's that? It's gin and tonics and Negronis in the summer. In summer. in the winter I tend towards brown spirits, but I like Manhattan in the winter. But I like gin in the summer. Yeah. I actually like my gin with a splash of Campari. Yeah, splash. There you go.
Hi.
I'm lost. There you go.
Okay, that's so loud. So, love you and Top Chef. I really appreciate how educated you are about food and all the comments, and you know so much. From like the contestants, what is like one of the favorite like techniques or dishes or ideas that you learned from them that you're like, wow, I never thought of that?
That's a great question, because I learn a lot from the contestants, especially since they're sort of younger generation, and technique-wise they're doing some different things that are kind of cool. So I am learning a lot. There's also often you'll find combinations of things I didn't think of. But the dishes that stick with me are dishes that are simple and executed really, really well. One of my favorite dishes I ever had was Paul Key. He did a very simple dish of vegetables and dashi, and the dish looked so simple, but the flavors were just so well developed and so delicious. But also, I think when you're cooking, especially on a show, there's a tendency to do a lot and try to do too much. I also think that, and we notice that things, spice, sugar, acid will almost win all the time. And you know this, but we have to actually be careful not to be seduced by those flavors. And so going back to that dish, it was so simple and but perfect. Every vegetable was perfectly cooked. The dashi was just beautifully done. And so that was one dish that sticks, but that's just one of many. But there's a lot that we see and learn, and the best part about doing the show, I'm anticipating a question here. The best part is, besides hanging out with the crew, because it's like summer camp, we go back and it's always the same crew, the same sound guys, camera guys, and a bunch of us play instruments, and we get together and play and have a great time. But it's getting to meet these young chefs that most likely I wouldn't get to meet, because there's so many restaurants and so many chefs doing great things. And so just seeing what they're doing and seeing how enthusiastic they are, and knowing that the culinary future, especially in this country, is just going to just continue to just thrive and blow up. So, but yeah. We have not filmed the next season yet, no. So when I said I can't tell you the winner, I don't even know who they are yet. So it was a true statement, I can't tell you the winner. No, we start shooting in September. Usually we shoot May to June, but can't tell you. Actually, I can tell you. I think it's out there. Los Angeles. I can't tell you where the finale is. That's going to be great. We've never been there before, so that's going to be cool. But usually we shoot May to June, but this season I really pushed them to do something in the fall, because we keep seeing the same food over and over again. We're seeing spring into summer food, and so I thought it would be really great if we saw, fall food. Yeah.
Hey Jeff, how are you? What did you have for dinner last night?
I didn't have dinner last night. So I was in Las Vegas. I have 2 restaurants in Las Vegas, so I was there on Friday. And so yesterday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we actually had a meat tasting. We had the supplier that was looking to get our business, and so I had some meat. I got here at 11 o'clock at night. The hotel I was staying in, the kitchen was closed. Thankfully, the festival gave me these crackers and this great garlic spread and some cheese. So that's what I had last night. And I think I popped open a jar of malted milk balls or something in the hotel room. That was my dinner last night, unfortunately. So, but yeah, sorry to disappoint.
Chef, right here. Over here. Besides yourself, is there another TV chef that you like to watch?
I don't consider myself a TV chef. I'm a restaurant chef. I happen to be on TV, but I don't watch a whole lot of the shows, to tell you the truth. I mean, obviously, Anthony's Bourdain show was more than cooking, and that's kind of what I gravitate towards, because to me that was about culture, that was about understanding different cultures through food, understanding geopolitics through food. And so to me, that's what's really, I think, was really cool about his show, but also cool about food, what it can do, how it can bring people around the table, how it's thought provocative, and how if you want to understand how someone lives, you want to understand someone's culture, you can usually find it through the food. And so I think you know, if we all kind of understood each other a little more and understood our food customs, we'd probably have a lot less strife in this country. But that was probably my other favorite food show. So, but Marcus Samuelsson has a really good show where he's going into different communities and looking at not only the people who are living there, but how not only their food, but who's producing food, and sort of takes a real comprehensive look at various communities and what they're doing food-wise. So that's a pretty cool show as well.
Hey, right here. Love your show. Great to see you. But I have a question. What are your favorite chefs, restaurants in this area, Bay Area?
I don't. You know, I used to spend a lot of time here. I don't. I can't. I couldn't tell you. You know, I don't travel as much as I used to. I have an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old at home, so I'm kind of home these days.
Yeah, make it back there for it.
I do. I can't. David Kinch at Marisa is a really good friend of mine. We worked together, God, 35 years ago in New York. My first restaurant I worked in New York, and so I've never been to his restaurant, but he's a good friend. But I can't. I don't know enough to comment on yet. Sorry.
Hi. Hi. Hey. Hi, Chef. So working in a kitchen is incredibly stressful, and I was wondering, what are your best practices for managing stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll tell you why. So when I first came up, I've been cooking professionally for 4 years, and that question was never asked. We just kind of burned out and turned to drugs and alcohol, things like that. And I mean, I'm not actually saying that to be funny, because it caught up to a lot of friends. It caught up to people who I knew who were talented, who completely burned out. You know, I think the restaurant industry used to, especially, naturally select for people who may have had issues and they're trying to work them out, and that's why we ended up in kitchens. There was a comment, I think it was Anthony Bourdain who made this comment, it's the first job you get out of jail and the last job you have before you go to jail. But I think nowadays people are looking at it very differently. For instance, I'm looking at, I don't schedule people the way I used to schedule them. We don't work nearly as many hours. The pressure is kind of toned down a bit, especially in my kitchen. There's no yelling and screaming. And I think a lot of people are moving in that direction. They're realizing that the old way of doing things really wasn't the best way of doing it. And it also, I think, excluded a lot of people from working in your kitchen. When I was at Gramercy Tavern, this is going back about 25 years ago, I had women who were fantastic. I mean, 2 sous chefs, pastry chefs, the senior people in position on the stoves, and I had great male chefs in the kitchen as well, but they're all junior to these women, and one by one they all left. And they left for various reasons, to raise family, because they wanted to deal with crazy hours. And a lot of men left too, but so we had to find a better way to make sure that everyone could stay involved and stay in the kitchens. Right now we have a shortage of cooks. Every single cook you talk to, every chef you talk to, we talked about it up here in between dishes, we can't find staff. And so we realize that we have to make our places more inclusive. We have to make them more desirable to work in. We actually had to take our restaurant business and sort of raise it up to higher standards that you'd see in any other workplace. And so that's kind of how we're dealing with it nowadays. Yeah, great question.
What was your favorite season of Top Chef to go to, and where are you looking forward to go to?
Favorite place was Singapore, our finale. Singaporeans, they treat food like a sport. The restaurants were just amazing. So that was a lot of fun. Favorite season was the Las Vegas season. I think it was season 5. The season we actually won our Emmy on. I thought the talent, we have talented chefs every season, but that season was one of those seasons. Like typically when we start the season, we can tell the 3, the 4, the 5 people that are going to kind of make it to the end. Sometimes we're surprised. But that one season, it was like 7 to 8 people who were just clearly, working on a different level. So that was, I think, our strongest season. And I think favorite episode is one of these things where the producers all thought it was the most boring thing in the world. We were at Gilroy Garlic restaurant at the MGM Grand, and there was a bunch of French chefs, mostly speaking French, around a table, and they really thought this was going to be like a terrible episode. It was the episode, when you submit to the Emmys, you submit one episode. We actually submitted that episode, and that's the one we won on. So, yeah, that was by far my favorite. Part of it was the chefs, for some reason, they all just turned it up. And food was fantastic. It was really great because you had arguably some of the best chefs in the world. Joe Robuchon, he passed away a couple of years ago, was considered the best chef in the world for like 10 years. That was the episode I was And it was great to watch him eat and look and go, this is for real. Because that's what we were so desperate to be when we started the show. We wanted to make sure that professionals looked at what we were doing on the show and said, this is the real deal. This isn't for TV, this isn't for... And you look at the chefs, what we're most proud of is if you look at the amount of chefs that have come out of Top Chef, that are opening multiple restaurants, are winning James Beard Awards, winning Best New Chef Food and Wine magazine, they're really contributing back. I don't think there's another reality competition show that can actually say they've launched that many careers and that many stars.
Okay. First of all, thank you for Top Chef. As a whole cook, I've learned so much watching season after season after season. It is just amazing. I like it. Hey, I can do that.
Right.
And I've done it. It's about a great club. Secondly, just touched on as a experienced restaurant course, you get satisfaction personally that you have been with these people and you see all these people like Richard Blaze, Spike, Antonio, moving on from not only are you working with the industry, but you're comedian now. You get satisfaction from it. You should feel honored and special about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, that is what, if you ask myself, Padma, Gail, you ask any of us, that's what we're most proud of. Because we're not allowed to interact with the chefs during the season at all. They have PAs with them all the time. So the only time we can interact with them is on camera. We don't see them after the show. We don't see them in between shoots. We're not allowed to talk to them. And so the only way we can actually mentor them is through giving them feedback. And at the end of the season, after we wrap, then we can talk to them. And that's what all of them say. They say, we listened to what you said, we really took it to heart, and a lot of them will come and say, it changed the way we think about food, the way we look at food. So that is what we're most proud of. Because we're not up there to be mean, we're not up there to rip someone apart, we're not up there to belittle someone. We're there to give them honest feedback. And we also figured out very early on that the only way for you all to experience food was for us to have a real honest conversation about what we're eating. So it's not, we're not mugging for the cameras, we're not trying to, sell products or whatever. We're trying to just have an honest conversation. And quite frankly, it's the same conversation I have with all the chefs who work for me in my restaurants. You sit down, you eat a dish, you give them feedback, you tell them what you think, and you move on. But that is what we're most proud of, so thank you. What do my kids like? Well, no, they don't watch Top Chef. I think they see me on TV and go, oh yeah, Dad's on TV, great. Okay, move on. No, they don't care about Top Chef. So I have 3 children. I have an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 26-year-old. 26-year-old loves food, eats like a champ. My 9-year-old eats a lot, he'll eat, and he's a good eater. My 8-year-old is the pickiest eater in the world. It's, he's getting me back. He tortures me. He won't eat. Eats bread. Eats bread. He likes rice. He likes bumpy fish. He got fried fish one day. He calls it bumpy fish. He gets bumpy fish. He wants the bumpy fish. It's little by little, though, we try. We're trying. But I think eventually he'll come around. Yeah.
My question, what is your go-to favorite thing to eat if you just want to cook your favorite? And my second part is, what is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty, I don't feel guilty about anything I eat. I could crush a pint of ice cream in one sitting pretty easily, and that's what I get a little guilty about when I finish, and it's like, what did I just do? But in terms of a go-to, I don't really have one, because in the winter it's chicken soup. But see, this is what I learned. Someone asked the question, what did I learn from the chefs? I never used a pressure cooker in my life until I saw them use on the show, and I was like, these are great. So, chicken soup recipe. Take the entire chicken, bones and all. Put it in the pot. Put water in the pot. Some salt in the pot. 20 minutes. Pressure cooker. Open it up. Add carrot, celery, onion, leek. Set it for 5 minutes. Open it up. Done. Finished. Then you pick obviously the meat off the bones and put it all together, and it's great. Chicken soup, 25 minutes, and it's as good as it gets. So that's a go-to in the winter, but I don't have a go-to. It's whatever's around, I get to whip it up pretty quickly. Yeah, but it's not. I can tell you when I'm cooking at home for my family, it's not elaborate meals.
Yeah, it's
We're not eating that.
Chef Tom?
It's pretty simple.
That's something we
Okay. Hi. I think food is very closely related to memory, and that's what makes it such a powerful tool to connect with other people. What was your favorite dish as a child growing up? And if for you to make it again now, would you keep it the way it is, or would you change it?
So, good question, and I agree with you. I think especially smells. Sometimes you'll smell something and bring you right back where you first experienced it. And same thing with food. The first bite you took, you can remember where you were, who you were with. So when I was a kid growing up, Italian American, I had to be home every night, dinner, 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere there. We had to be home. And every Sunday, my mother made Sunday gravy. Now, gravy, if you're Italian American from the East Coast, you know what gravy is. So, and it's not sauce. And I'll tell you the difference between sauce and gravy. If you go to the dictionary, a gravy is a sauce made with meat drippings. And so when you take sausage and meatballs and braciole and you brown it up and you put it in marinara sauce, it becomes a gravy. So that's what it is, gravy. And we didn't eat pasta, we had macaroni. And so that was it. That's the meal I want to have before I exit. But my mother made it every Sunday, and it was always. There's one other dish that kind of ties into that. That would probably be my first choice. So when I was about 5 or 6, I besides cooking, I have a few other hobbies. One, I play guitar. Not very good, but I play. I'm enthusiastic. I do play every day. I am a maniacal fisherman. On the water as much as I can be. When I was 5 years old, my grandfather started taking me fishing in Barnegat Bay, New Jersey. We used to get, not so much fishing, but crabs and clams. Occasionally we catch a fish. So we would take a bushel of crabs, and my job, and this is probably why I cook, I had 2 jobs when I was 5 and 6 years old. One, the first job, was to keep my grandfather awake on the ride home. It was a real job. He actually gave me this job. You have to sit in the front seat and nudge him, because my grandfather would nod out. So that was even before we had seatbelts. I don't know, it was kind of crazy if you think about it. But my second job, because my grandfather was nodding out, he figured out very early to stick a knife in my hand and teach me how to clean all this stuff. So I had to clean fish, but the crabs. Now, and as a kid growing up, I had no idea that crabs were cooked any other way but this. And so we would boil them the way you normally boil crabs, and then we would take them out, take the shell off, take out the gills, or what they call the dead man's fingers, and then we would cook them for about 45 minutes in marinara sauce. And then we would take the crabs out, and we'd pick through the crabs and put the sauce over linguine. If we had fish, it was usually just fried. And then if we had clams, they were usually cooked with garlic and parsley and wine. And so these were feasts. These were summer feasts. We would literally spend hours picking through crab at night. And that's the dish that reminds me of a lot of things. A knife in my hand, first time. Going to being on the water, being in the ocean. And learning how to prepare fish and take care of fish and take care of food. But more importantly, see, this was such a big feast. It wasn't just immediate family. We would have aunts and uncles and cousins would come. It was a big table, 20 people minimum, and it showed you, again, the power of food. That you can, it's more than just feeding people. It's about bringing those people around the table and listening to the adults. When I was a kid, listening to the adults, talk about whatever, sports, politics, news of the day around that table. Listen to the arguments, listen to the gossip. But it was about what food can actually do. And I think that's why I fell in love with food at such a young age.
Tom? Hi. So, my friend and I are totally rad. I've never been to New York, and I was just wondering, I'm vegetarian as well, so what restaurant would you recommend for a first time visit in the fall?
Hard to recommend. There's actually a decent amount of vegetarian restaurants and vegan restaurants in the city. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But there's any restaurant that you go to nowadays should have vegetarian options and thoughtful options, not a bunch of vegetables heaped on a plate. So, but I off the top of my head, I can't. I don't know. Sorry.
I work for a potato company right here.
Oh.
For a potato company and I sell French fries. What's your favorite French fry and what do you like to put on it?
I don't know what you mean by your favorite French fry.
Like crisp cut, twisted.
Oh, God. That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, well, the garlic fries, of course. Yeah. I like shoestrings, but I like them when they're a little bigger than shoestrings, but not big, thick ones either. I like any kind of French fry, to tell you the truth. And it's like, truth be told, it's veal or ketchup. I mean, I'm okay with ketchup on French fries. It's great. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know if there's a favorite. No, I just like them straight up. Salt. That's it. Don't put anything on it, except for garlic, of course. But no, I like them straight up. I think they're fine like that. Yeah.
Hi, Chef. I was wondering, do you have any advice for reducing food waste?
Oh, I can spend an hour on this. Good question. The question was, if you didn't hear, any advice for reducing food waste. So let's just go through the numbers very quickly. We waste 40% of what we produce in this country. 40% of what our farmers are actually producing end up in the garbage. Either garbage or landfill, okay? Now, when you think about this is a farming community. We're not talking about only food that goes in the garbage. We're talking about all the energy that goes into it. We're talking about people's labor. We're talking about people's love, their livelihoods. That we just feel that it's not that valuable, we can just toss it in the garbage. And so, number one, I think we have to start valuing food. We're 2 generations away. My grandparents grew up during the recession, or the Depression. And I remember watching my grandfather cook bacon in the morning, and he would take the oil and strain it and put it in a jar. And that's what he used to cook with at night. Nothing was thrown out, because they valued food, because they were going without. And we've gotten so used to food being cheap and plentiful, it's nothing. So at home, we're throwing out about, the average consumer, the average family throws out between $1,500 and $1,800 of food a year. Just throws it out. And so, there's a lot of reasons for it. We're not valuing food. We tend to overshop. We tend to not shop frequently enough. And I think also, people are throwing things out because the date labels on food aren't what you think they mean. If you see sell by, that doesn't mean that is bad by that date. And just so you know, the way that sell by date is actually put on there is completely arbitrary. It's actually done by focus groups that sit around and they say, how long do you think it should be before milk spoils? And then they throw out a date, and that's what goes on there. And so it's not based on science at all. And so if we actually started labeling, and there's actually a bill by a congresswoman from Maine who's trying to get this done, where these dates are actually dates where the product will spoil, because we're throwing things out way too soon. So that's, there's what I like to do, sort of a practical tip. Every Friday, I open up my refrigerator and I go through it and I find all the scraps and I turn, especially produce, it gets turned into a soup or it gets turned into a pasta. But I actively go through and make sure that I'm cleaning it out. The other thing I do, especially in the summer, where I'm making breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm home. We have a house outside the city, and my wife likes to joke around that I have the mentality of a Depression-era wife, or housewife, because I don't throw anything out, but I repurpose everything. And so whatever's left over for dinner finds its way in breakfast or lunch the next day. Sometimes I'll look at leftovers for a couple days and then it's lunch for the crowd. But making sure that whatever you have left over, you're actually keeping, you're refrigerating, and you're thinking about what you're going to do with it. So those are some of the things that I would suggest. But we have to do much better. And again, I think if you start looking at that food that you throw out as someone's life, as energy that was put into it, then I think you start valuing it more, and I think that's when you start sort of saving some food. You've been very patient over here.
What was your very first cooking job?
Wow, good question. My very first cooking job was probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And so I was 15 years old, and actually I was about 13 or 14. My family belonged to the swim club, and there was a snack bar. And the guy who ran the snack bar hired me to scoop ice cream and work the cash register. And within a week I was cooking. I say it was the best job ever. I think I was getting paid $275 a week under the table as a 14-year-old. So it was like, oh, this is awesome. I had money. But it was I was a short order cook. And I worked in cutoffs, made shoes, almost never a shirt. I make like grilled cheese sandwiches and hot dogs and hamburgers, and we would do ribs every now and then. But what it taught me was I had a station about this big. When it got busy, I had to work. I had to manipulate heat. I had to move things around, and it was my favorite job I ever had. But that was it. I was about 14 years old, and it set me on the right path for the next 40 years. So yeah, good question. Okay, so they're telling me I'm done. Listen, this was great. Thank you. Have fun, eat some garlic. Get out there. There's plenty of amazing food. We have some great demos coming up. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.